Hey everyone, it's Jamie from Independence Street NOLA and Seasons and Ritual, and we're here to talk about this beautiful Beaver moon. It's a super full moon that's happening tomorrow, November 5th. Um, it's going to be a full moon in Taurus. The sun is in Scorpio, and as we know, when the sun and the moon are opposite of each other, the moon is reflecting the sun's energy, and that gives us our full moon. Um, Let's talk about this full moon. This is a lot of energy. This is like the third time I've tried to record this video because I keep trying to ground all this energy that's coming in. It's a very energetic time. We've got Three-Eye Atlas flying around in our solar system as well. But let's just talk about, I'm going to try to keep this simple too because there is so much energy. Um, uh, and not deviate too much just from the main energy of what's happening with the sun and moon, what's happening and what will be happening in Taurus, and what's happening with Scorpio. So one of the things I do want to touch on is this grand water trine that's happening between Scorpio, Cancer, and Pisces. Saturn, that is retrograde in Pisces, is kind of holding the Pisces down. And then Jupiter, who is soon going to go retrograde in Cancer, is holding down the 2 points of those water signs. And then the personal planets that are moving through Scorpio at this time will makes that third point. So for a while we've had it with Mars, who's been in Scorpio. Um, Soon Venus will be coming through Scorpio, and then Mercury will be coming through Scorpio. So this grand water trine is also part of the story of this full moon, of this full supermoon, in the sense that we are moving through, literally washing through emotions, right? That is getting us to get into this place for this new age of Aquarius. So Pisces is working with the lower Pisces, is addiction, narcissism, delusion. Higher Pisces is spirituality, the mystic, in beginnings and endings. Cancer, Jupiter is in Cancer. That's that idea of, lower Cancer, staying in toxic relationships, not creating, um, being, fearful of one's own emotions, higher Cancer, creating a home, feeling safe, going out in the world, knowing that you're safe. And then Scorpio, that's the fixed water, and that's where all the personal signs, like the personal planets are moving through, which is so interesting. Scorpio is how we see ourselves, right? It's our sex. It is transmutation. It is death, rebirth. And it holds that space for all creation, right? And we are in Scorpio season right now. And so we have this grand water trine that keeps flowing up until, all the way through December. And so we've got to work with these emotions to keep moving things through to get us to where we need to be. The interesting thing is, the water doesn't stop flowing. Mercury's going to go retrograde here on the 9th in Sagittarius. It will retrograde back until the 29th of November. And it stations at 20 degrees of Scorpio. So it'll be holding that point for a while for the grand water trine. But what's interesting is that Mercury retrogrades back only to 20 degrees of Scorpio. And so that last, decan to me of the signs is the point of mastery. So we're really going to, go over about what we think about things, where we want to go, where we want to move within ourselves, and what it is that we are creating and what we're going to commit to creating as things keep shifting so monumentally on the planet. Because again, this is this idea, these are the water signs, right? The feminine energy. Um, but this is about using feelings and emotions and coming from that heart space. Um, leaving that idea of everything has to be thought out and logical and getting more feeling more comfortable about feeling our feelings, trusting them, understanding how we set boundaries with this in order to move things forward, right? So we don't feel like so we don't feel like we are getting taken advantage of. So we understand how to say no and feel comfortable in that in order to keep our lives moving along. That's that. And we'll talk more about this grand water trine, but it's important to understand that, and this started on October 20th and it's going into December. So we are moving through a lot of feelings because we've got to get to where we need to be in order to keep moving forward, to keep evolving. And you know, if we look at the news, it seems like we're devolving, de-evolving. But we're not. We're in this time of moving forward. So it's really important to, you know, sit with ourselves, sit with the earth, um, pay attention to what we're thinking about, pay attention to the unconscious, right? Water signs, usually, especially Scorpio, represents the unconscious in our subconscious. And all of this is coming up because we've got to feel whole, we've got to feel grounded, full moon, right? We've in Taurus, and we've got to keep moving forward because we're not moving backwards. Even everybody was stressing out about 5 planets being in retrograde. Okay, 3 of these planets have been in retrograde for a hot minute, you guys. So the only 2 planets joining the party for retrograde is Mercury, who will go retrograde on the 9th, and then Jupiter, who goes retrograde on the 11th. Okay, so it's we're fine. And like I said, the whole idea is that emotions and feelings, creation is still going to be moving forward because we're in this grand water trine until December. So moving back into the full moon. And it's interesting too because you know, the moon controls the tides, and now we're having the super moon. It's the Beaver moon on the 5th. So we're on the 4th right now. Like I said, she just moved into Taurus. She's at 0 degrees. The moon is at 0 degrees. Drink lots of water. Uh, make sure you're so well hydrated at this time. The moon is the closest to the orbit, so it's really going to be illuminating the self, right? It's really going to be illuminating what is ending, right? What needs to be transmuted, but what is also being reborn or rebirthed. And these are really subtle energies. This full moon, while there is so much energy coming in, it's not really an action moon. It's okay to be, I keep, you know, the word soft keeps coming up. Especially the intensity of October moving into November. It's okay to uh, feel the softness of this full moon. It is here to nurture. I love that it is the beaver moon because beavers are our friends. They know how to work with the earth, right? And water. That's what they do. So I think the fact that they um, work with both, and it's the full moon in Taurus, which is Earth, and then the sun is in Scorpio, is perfect for this. Um, and it is this time to go in the home, right? Physical home, personal home, and see what it is that we need to get out, move out, and prepare for the upcoming winter. I know I have friends that literally were cleaning and clearing things out. I know I'm clearing things out. I started yesterday. I was like, I got to get rid of these boxes that have been sitting here for months. Um, but it is this preparation because we need to start making more space. This full moon is going to show you where you need to make space in your life, where you need to make space in your mind, where you need to make space in your heart. Um, Uranus is retrograde. Okay, she's at 0 degrees of Gemini, and she is going to move back into Taurus um, on on the 8th, on the 8th of this month, right before Mercury turns retrograde. So Taurus, in a sense, is making space for Uranus to come back. Uranus has been in Taurus or was in Taurus for 8 years. She brought in the Me Too movement, She really brought in all this feminine energy onto the planet. And then she moved into Gemini a couple months ago, and now she's retrograding back into Taurus, and she'll be there until 2026, April 2026. Um, working again with those last degrees of Uranus will be working those last degrees of Taurus until she moves out. So this is a time, when the planets go retrograde, it is a time of reflection, but it's also a time to really shore things up. Taurus represents stability, money. She's ruled by Venus. So creativity, what we want to move next. And we're in Uranus being in there, especially the end of Pisces, the age of Pisces, she was in there. Uranus rules Aquarius. She was in there as we moved into this age of Aquarius. And now we're in this age of Aquarius, and she's moving back in there to make sure this ground stays fertile, right? Make sure this ground stays fresh. To make sure that the seeds that you've planted in this fresh ground, you're going to find those ways to keep things moving forward. Um, but, she wants that stability. So the things that aren't stable are going to shake up, right? Which is good. So again, Uranus moving back into this, moving back into Taurus, Taurus ruled by Venus. It is about going back into that heart space to me, okay? Because Uranus rules Aquarius. Aquarius, um, you know, understands the cosmos. The cosmos comes from the heart. We see air signs as mental, but we're moving into this age of Aquarius where it is, she holds the energy, she holds the water. It comes from the heart. That's the heart space is the most powerful manifester. We can think things all along, but if we don't feel it in our hearts, if we don't believe it in our heart, um, it doesn't come true. Right. And I mean, we can talk about that with people staying in narcissistic relationships because when they believe in their heart, like this person really isn't like that, people stay in relationships way too long. Right. Um, and now that we're understanding that and we're moving into how to work with the heart space more than the mind space, that manifests things much quicker. That's kind of a little bit of weird diversion, but anyway, that's what needed to come out. So. Taurus prepping the home, getting ready for Uranus to come back in, to go over things. Maybe some things aren't, oh, I got to go over this again. But sometimes when you go back home or you go back and visit, you learn things, you see things you didn't see, you learn new things. You talk about things that can make things move faster. So don't let these retrogrades get you down. Again, um, Pisces, sorry. Saturn and Neptune have been retrograde in Pisces for a minute. Um, and Uranus has been retrograde for a minute too. So those three are retrograde. The only two joining the party again is Jupiter and Mercury. And Jupiter is going to be retrograde in Cancer until March of 2026. Uranus will be retrograde until April 2026. Saturn and Neptune are going to be retrograde until February 2026. So these retrograde planets, this energy of these retrograde planets is what we're working with. This isn't coming out of nowhere. We're in it. We're in it. So don't let that stress you out. Um, Mercury retrograding from Sagittarius back into Scorpio because we got to have these conversations. We've got to move things through. We got to transmute things. We've got to see that things are dead and gone, right? And they're being transmuted, going through Pisces, which is the beginning and ending, going over to Cancer, which then we can create a new home, work with that womb energy, going back to Scorpio, okay, setting that energy into that fixed water, right? So this is happening now and until, into next year. Okay, so going back to the full moon in Taurus, Taurus is Earth, Gaia, stability, working with the Beaver moon, ground yourself. What does your home need? What do your finances need to look like? How can you be sensible? Where are you now versus where you were last week, a month, a year ago, 10 years ago, right? And building on this because the idea of, retrogrades, and the idea of moving forward is understanding there's so much more um, that we've there's so much more that we can build that we can move into, right? And a lot of it is a lot simpler than we thought or we were led to believe. Earth signs keep things practical, keep things simple. I always say they understand there's 24 hours in a day and they have two hands, right? Which is important because Virgo, where the lunar south node is learning that again. Virgo's got into the idea of resolving everything for everyone at all times. That south lunar node is in Virgo. That's what we're leaving behind with that earth sign. We're leaving behind being a martyr. We're being leaving behind having to figure everything out for everyone. Okay. And with this full moon, she is trining Virgo. So the full moon in Taurus will be trining Virgo, right? So it is this quiet energy of I don't have to resolve this shit anymore for everybody. It is this quiet energy of what do I want to do? Go into my heart space because I got to climb off the cross, Virgo. Get off the cross, stop being the martyr, and really understand what it is that you want to do to make yourself happy, to um, see the world with that freshness every day, those virgin eyes, like, oh, this is great. What do we get to do today? The moon will be then sextiling Pisces, right? And the sextiling, or the Pisces is the north node, and that's what we're moving towards. So this full moon, this energy, right? We've got fixed energy, water energy of the sun in Scorpio, in earth energy with that moon in Taurus. Okay, she's going to be sextiling Pisces, what we're moving towards. North node is what we're moving towards, and that is understanding the spirituality, understanding all endings come with a new beginning, and it's supposed to work like that. We are fluid, right? There is no end in a sense. Energy is is like this, and then it creates and it moves into something else, right? So when the moon is working with the nodes, that is a lot of powerful energy. But again, it's this idea of being soft. It is this idea of listening. It's the idea of being subtle. She's also going to be in a semi-square with Neptune, right? And Neptune is in Pisces. Neptune rules Pisces. So again, this isn't about, and Pisces is water. And Earth and water are opposite signs for a reason because they have to work together. I always say, see the gentle water flowing over the stream, or the stream flowing over the rocks. Keep things moving. If you want to get a little faster, then get a little faster pace, but you've got to have that earth to ground that water. So the moon going to be in a semi-square with Neptune, who's back in its home sign of Pisces, who's right next to Saturn. Saturn rules Capricorn. Capricorn is Earth. Um, this isn't about forcing matters because you're not going to be able to. This is about letting things flow. This is about opening the dams, right? But also building new dams, right? Beaver moon, and seeing where you are with your life at this time. Uh, I think that's probably going to be it. I talked a little bit more maybe about the grand water trines and the retrogrades, but I think that's important. Working with Taurus, with this full moon energy, the super moon is really going to illuminate what is it in our lives that we need to build for, um, what we need to get rid of, right? But it's also building this idea of softness, understanding that we can trust the self, that we can trust the earth, that we can trust the right areas, what areas in our lives that we need to clean out, right? Clean out, get some space open. Uranus is coming back in to Taurus, so she's cleaning things out to get some space open. Um, and then working with what areas we need to build dams So we can always go to the water, right? We can always go to the well. We understand there is more than enough when we work with what we have, um, and that we're smart enough to understand where to go in order to build that community to keep us moving forward. So I hope everyone has a beautiful full moon. I want everyone to drink lots of water. I want everyone not to force any issues. I would like everyone to start to listen, see how they feel. Um, this full moon, even though it's super, is going to be extremely subtle. So a super subtle supermoon in Taurus. Okay, friends, till then, I will see you. Maybe I'll come back on and we'll talk a little bit more about this Mercury going retrograde. But until then, have a great supermoon.